Sleep Stories channel. If you're looking for a bit more calm and comfort before bed, subscribe so you'll always have a gentle story to fall asleep to. On winter nights in the far north, when the wind moves like a slow breath over the snow and the sky hangs low with heavy clouds, a longhouse glows softly in the dark. Its walls of timber and turf are half buried in the earth, as if the house itself is seeking shelter from the cold. From a distance, it seems like any other shadow on the frozen landscape. Only when one draws closer can the signs of life be seen. A faint strand of smoke rising from a smoke hole, thin lines of orange firelight leaking through cracks in the door and along the edges of shutters, a murmur of voices that blend with the sighing wind. Inside this longhouse, a small community is finishing the last slow tasks of the evening. Wooden bowls are stacked, woolen cloaks are shaken out and folded, embers are carefully gathered so that the fire will live through the night. The air is thick with the scent of wood smoke, dried herbs, and wool warmed by many bodies. It is here, in this dim, enclosed world, that the people of the North are preparing for rest in a way that feels, to modern minds, strangely intentional and deeply wise. They do not think in the language of hormones, circadian rhythms, or sleep cycles. They have never heard the words insomnia or sleep hygiene. Yet their lives are shaped by the slow turning of the seasons, the rising and setting of the sun, and by customs that, without knowing it, honor the body's need for gradual letting go. In their own manner, with their own rituals, they have learned how to sink into a sleep that restores them for the demands of their world, the sea voyages, the long days in fields and forests, the patient work of weaving, carving, and building. A traveler from the 21st century, exhausted by screens, electric glare, and restless thoughts, might envy this quiet, unhurried descent into night. A house that breathes with the dark. The longhouse does not have separate bedrooms, corridors, or closed doors to divide people from one another. It is a single, elongated space, wood-framed and earth-walled, like a ship turned upside down and anchored in the soil. Along its center runs the hearth, a low, open fire whose coals glow red and orange against the blackness of the roof beams. The flames do not roar. At night, they are banked and tamed, their light reduced to a steady flicker that never fully goes out. On either side of the hearth, raised wooden platforms run the length of the walls. During the day, they serve as benches for sitting, working, or sharing meals. At night, they transform into beds for the whole household. Armfuls of straw are spread across the planks as a soft, springy layer between the sleepers and the cold. On top of this come sheepskins and woolen blankets, thick and heavy. Sometimes furze fox, reindeer, or bear are laid above the wool to catch every bit of warmth that might escape. The longhouse is not silent. It never is. Even late at night, there are the small, constant sounds of a shared human life. Someone shifting under blankets, the low woof of a sleeping dog, the quiet creak of a beam, or the faint grinding of timbers as wind pushes against the roof. From the far end of the house comes the breathing of animals, cows, goats, or sheep housed indoors for the winter, their body heat mingling with that of the humans. The house holds all of this in a single breath, a single volume of air warmed by fire and flesh. To a modern visitor, the first impression might be of crowding. No solid walls, no private rooms, only curtains here and there, or hanging furs used to create small pockets of seclusion. Yet this very closeness brings something the modern world often lacks: an unspoken feeling of safety. No one sleeps alone. No one is separated by locked doors or double-glazed windows from the warmth and watchfulness of others. The night is shared, and so is the comfort that comes with it. The slow fading of the day-evening does not break suddenly in the north. Light drains from the sky in long, lingering stages, blues slowly deepening to indigo and then to black. Within the longhouse, the shift is equally gradual. As the sky darkens outside, the people inside move at a gentler pace. Voices grow quieter. Tools are put away. The heavy outside doors are barred against the cold. Somewhere near the hearth, a small stone or wooden figure stands in a niche, offerings of grain or ale at its base, a reminder that the gods and spirits are invited to watch over this household through the night. The last meal of the day is simple and filling, perhaps a thick porridge, fish dried and softened by slow cooking, or a stew of meat and roots that has simmered since midday. Children eat first, then lean against parents or grandparents, listening with heavy-lidded eyes to the quiet rise and fall of adult conversation. The talk is not hurried. There is no need to race against the ticking of clocks or to fit rest into narrow, numbered hours before an early shift. Time here is measured by shadows and sky, by the day's work completed and the sense of a body pleasantly tired. When the bowls have been cleaned and put aside, someone adds a few pieces of wood to the fire. The room brightens gently, then settles again. A story begins, perhaps of travels across the sea, perhaps of the gods and their strange bargains, or of ancestors whose choices still shape the lives of the living. Stories are not entertainment in the modern sense. They are a way of stitching past to present, of reminding everyone who they are and where they come from. They also smooth the mind's descent towards sleep, allowing thoughts to drift from the practical details of the day into larger, slower patterns. Children fall asleep first, slumping against adults or curling up on the platforms as they are, still half-dressed. A cloak is drawn over one small body, a sheepskin over another. The murmur of the story continues, the same phrases heard night after night, familiar and soothing. Outside, the last of the daylight has finally gone. The longhouse has become its own small universe of glow and shadow, a warm pocket of life in a land otherwise surrendered to frost and dark. The first sleep. Gradually, one by one, adults also lie down on the straw-covered benches, pulling blankets up around shoulders, tucking cold feet against another's warmth. There is no single moment when everyone decides, now we sleep. Instead, the house slides into slumber in layers, like the gradual deepening of twilight. This first sleep settles over the longhouse like a heavy, quiet snow. Breaths lengthen, limbs uncurl and loosen, minds drift inward. Dreams begin simple ones at first, perhaps echoes of the day's tasks, a memory of the sea's rhythm, the swing of an axe, the smell of pine or smoke. Outside, the wind shifts direction. It runs its fingers along roof and wall, searching for cracks. In places, it finds them, and a faint draft slips in to play at the edge of blankets. Yet the sleepers do not wake easily. Their bodies are accustomed to such small disturbances. Their sleep has depth, anchored by the steady warmth of others lying nearby, by the dull red glow of the hearth that says, the fire still lives, you are still safe. This first portion of sleep is held in darkness, thick enough that time loses its hard edges. There are no digital displays to watch, No alarms glowing on bedside tables. No sudden chimes of messages arriving from distant places. The night is whole and unbroken to the eye, and the body responds in kind, sinking into a rest that does not hurry itself, that does not fear being cut short. Somewhere, under the roof beams, a raven perched earlier that day has left a single black feather snagged in the thatch. No one knows it is there, but if someone were to wake and look up, they might see it, dark against dark, swaying slightly in drafts from the smoke hole. For this people, such a sign would not be meaningless. Ravens are never only birds. They belong to stories, to gods, to omens. In a world like this, every object can contain significance. Every detail of waking and sleeping life is woven into a web that touches both earth and sky. The soft dividing of the night. After some hours, 4, perhaps a little less, perhaps a little more, the weight of that first sleep begins to lift of its own accord. No one rings a bell. No one calls out. Yet one person shifts, then another. An elder rubs at a stiff shoulder. A woman pulls herself up on one elbow to add wood to the fading coals, coaxing a few slender flames back to life. A child rolls over, sighs, and sinks again into deeper sleep. For many in the house, this is the moment of natural wakefulness that comes not with anxiety or urgency, but with a curious sense of calm. The mind, cleared by the first descent into unconsciousness, rises to the surface for a while, but does not fully leave the sea of sleep beneath it. Thoughts here are softer, slower, not yet sharpened by daylight duties. In this in-between time, small tasks are done. Someone checks the animals at the far end of the house, running a hand along a cow's flank, listening for any sign of distress or illness. Another person sits near the hearth with a spindle, letting wool twist under careful fingers into thread, the movement so familiar that eyes could be closed while doing it. Lovers might draw closer under their shared blankets, whispering in the low half-light. An old man might simply sit propped against the wall, watching the faint patterns of flame on the rafters, remembering other winters, other faces long gone. Outside, a narrow gap in the clouds might reveal a few stars or the pale round of the moon. Inside, time feels thick and unmeasured. This is neither the fully waking day nor the deep unconscious night. It is a third kind of space, a threshold, quiet, reflective, almost sacred. In such hours, people sometimes speak in murmurs about their dreams. A woman tells of seeing a narrow path of ice stretching across dark water with a fox watching from the shore. A young man describes a ship sailing through the sky, its sails filled not with wind but with light. An older woman listens and nods, weighing the images against the symbols she has inherited from mothers and grandmothers before her. Dreams here are not dismissed as random images from a tired brain. They are part of the household's language for understanding the world. Whispers from gods, ancestors, or from some deeper part of the self that only speaks when ordinary noise is quiet. The time between first and second sleep is often when such dreams are shared, while their colors are still bright in the mind and their edges not yet worn away by the work of the day. A culture without clocks. If we could stand at the threshold of the longhouse at this moment and look in without being seen, we would notice something striking. No one is impatient. No one is muttering, "I must get back to sleep. I only have 3 hours left before I have to get up." There are no numbers hanging over their heads, counting down the minutes until morning. The length of this wakeful interval is not measured but felt. When the needed tasks are done, when the additional logs have caught fire, when the quiet conversations have drifted into silence, people simply lie down again. This second descent into sleep is usually gentler than the first. Bodies, warmed once more by fire and activity, slip under blankets. Heads find hollows in straw. An arm is draped across a child who has slept through the whole waking period, unaware of the subtle shifting of the night around them. Outside, the wind may have strengthened or dropped away. Snow might have begun to fall, covering the world in white that glints faintly under the cloud-veiled moon. But inside the longhouse, the rhythm has returned to slumber. Dreams deepen in this second portion of sleep, becoming longer, stranger, more layered. Some will be remembered upon waking, others will vanish entirely, leaving only a feeling calm, unease, inspiration that lingers for hours or days. Without ever naming it, these people live in a pattern of segmented rest that follows something older than clocks, the needs of their own bodies, the sweep of the seasons, the slow breath of night itself. The morning that doesn't hurry. At last, a thin grey light begins to seep in around the doorframe and roof edges. It is barely dawn, but the snow outside reflects whatever light there is, sending it more strongly into the house than the sun alone might do. A rooster stirs somewhere, or a dog begins to shift and stretch. A baby wakes and fusses softly, and its mother, half asleep, reaches for it without opening her eyes fully. This too is a gradual rising. No alarm shatters the last threads of dreams. The household comes back to waking life in waves. Someone adds more wood to the fire, and yellow light grows where there was only dull red. Water is warmed, porridge is started. The smell of smoke changes from the dry crackle of night embers to the more complex scent of a new day beginning. The memory of dreams does not vanish completely with this dawning. It travels with people into their morning tasks. A man gathering tools for work might pause, remembering the image of a broken oar or a calm, glassy sea from his night visions, and mark that memory quietly for future interpretation. A woman kneading dough might think of the fox that visited her in the dream, wondering what sort of path or choice it might be hinting at. No one in this house would say that their sleep was perfect. They know of nights broken by storms that rattle the very beams, by injuries, by worry for someone out at sea. They know of bad dreams, sharp and frightening, that send the heart pounding. Yet overall, their pattern of living gives sleep a wide, generous space. It is not something to be squeezed into a narrow margin around other obligations, but a central, honored part of daily life, equal in importance to work, worship, and family bonds. Long before the language of modern science, they have learned this simple truth. A body that works with the light must also rest with the dark. A mind that carries stories and decisions by day needs time to wander without demand through the quieter country of dreams. And so, night after night, winter after winter, this longhouse breathes with its people, inhaling work, exhaling rest, inhaling story, exhaling sleep. A winter of many nights. In the far north, winter is not a brief visitor. It settles in slowly and then stays, stretching its shadow across months. The sun, when it appears, moves close to the horizon, casting long blue-tinged light over snow and ice. Days are short, and nights pour over the land in deep, generous measure. For those inside the longhouse, this extended darkness does not feel like an enemy. It is demanding, yes cold, can be deadly, storms dangerous, but the long nights offer something the people quietly understand. Time. Time to rest more deeply. Time to dream more fully. Time to repair not only tools and clothing, but also thoughts and spirits worn thin by the efforts of the warmer seasons. In summer, when the sun barely sets and the sky holds a soft brightness even at midnight, sleep is lighter and more easily broken. People rise early and go to bed late, making use of every usable hour of daylight for fishing, farming, sailing, and travel. Sleep in those months feels like a short harbor between voyages, brief but still essential. In winter, by contrast, the pattern shifts. The darkness invites longer retreats into the warm belly of the longhouse. People rest more. The first and second sleeps stretch out. Waking periods between them may widen as well, filled with quiet talk, low work, and the kind of unhurried reflection that is too easily pushed aside when days are bright and full of tasks. To modern eyes, trained to think that long sleep is laziness or wasted time, this might seem strange. But for this northern community, the body's instinct to rest more in winter makes intuitive sense. The land is resting, wrapped in ice. The fields are resting under snow. Trees stand bare and still. Rivers move more slowly under sheets of frozen surface. Even the sea, restless as it always is, can seem calmer in certain sheltered inlets when drift ice dulls the waves. Why should humans be the only creatures who refuse to let the season reshape them? The quiet work of the in-between. On one such winter night, the household has once again sunk into its familiar pattern. The first sleepers carried most of them away from waking concerns. The fire has burned down to coals. Outside, the wind sweeps fine grains of snow across the frozen ground, erasing tracks, smoothing irregularities, making the world appear newly formed. Deep within the longhouse, among the layered warmth of straw and wool, a girl named Runa stirs. She is not yet fully grown, but no longer a small child, old enough to help with spinning and simple weaving, young enough that adults still watch over her with a gentle eye. In the first sleep, she dreamed of a forest of ice, each tree made of clear frost, glowing faintly from within as if lit by trapped starlight. Now, as her body begins the slow ascent toward wakefulness, the brightness of that dream lingers in her mind. Her eyes open to the dim, smoky light of the longhouse. For a moment, she lies quite still, listening to the layered breathing all around her, the deep rumble of men exhausted by the day's woodcutting, the smaller, faster breaths of children, the occasional murmur of someone caught in a dream's tangled net. The sound comforts her. She is not alone in this dark. She is wrapped in a whole community's shared rest. Beside her, her younger brother is curled tightly under a wool blanket, one hand still loosely grasping a small carved wooden horse. Their mother lies on his other side, a steady warmth that Runa can feel even with a little distance between them. Across the hearth, her grandfather sleeps near the wall, propped slightly upright on folded cloaks for his old bones, his thick grey beard rising and falling with each breath. As Runa's waking deepens, she does not feel restless. There is no anxious clock ticking in her head, no worry of not sleeping enough. This interval of night wakefulness is as familiar to her as the dawn. Quietly, careful not to jostle her brother or disturb her mother, she slides herself up to sit. The air is cool on her face, but not bitterly cold. The longhouse holds its warmth fairly well. Thick walls of turf and timber trap much of the day's accumulated heat, aided by the steady exhalations of people and animals. Runa draws her cloak closer around her shoulders and looks toward the hearth. The fire is low, only a faint reddish glow outlining the shapes of half-burned logs. On many nights, an adult would already have risen by this point to tend it. But tonight, the newest wood has not yet been added. Runa waits a moment, half expecting someone else to move. When no one does, she stands softly and makes her way toward the center of the house. Her bare feet know the path. She has walked it in daylight thousands of times, from sleeping platform to hearth, from hearth to doorway, from doorway back again. In the dark, those memories guide her feet as surely as sight. She steps over a stray bucket, around a pile of wood, then crouches near the coals. There is an art to feeding a fire without waking a sleeping house. Runa chooses a thin, dry stick from the pile and lays it gently across the brightest part of the embers. She watches as the wood blackens, then glows at its edges. A thread of smoke curls up, tasting the air. Slowly, a pale tongue of flame appears, then another. The light grows, but not too quickly. As the fire regains a small strength, the shadows in the room shift. A carved post takes on new shape. The lines of the roof beams become visible. Runa sits back on her heels and simply watches for a while, her mind drifting as easily as the rising smoke. A house awake in the middle of night. She is not alone in her wakefulness. Across the room, her grandfather's eyes open, catching the flicker of the renewed fire. For a moment, he is still listening. Old habits, formed in younger years when danger could come unannounced, run deep. He listens for any sound that might signal trouble. A creak too sharp, a distant shout, the particular tone of a dog's bark that means stranger. Hearing nothing but the small swallow of flames and the normal night noises of beasts and humans, he relaxes and shifts to sit more upright. His joints complain softly, but he swings his feet down to rest on the edge of the platform, then slowly rises, pulling a heavy wool robe around his shoulders. He moves with the deliberate care of age, each step planted firmly, each motion economical. When he reaches the hearth, he finds Runa sitting there, her face illuminated by reflected firelight. She looks up at him, a question in her eyes, not asking permission exactly, but inviting him into this quiet wakefulness. "You fed our little son," he says in a low voice, so as not to disturb the others. "It was getting hungry." Runa smiles faintly. "It didn't want to die," she answers, echoing a phrase she has heard adults use about the hearth fire many times. In this house, fire is not just a tool, it is a kind of companion. Keeping it alive through the night is both necessity and ritual. Her grandfather lowers himself carefully onto a low stool near the hearth and extends his hands to the new warmth. "Did it wake you?" he asks. "Or did something else?" "A dream," Runa says, and then hesitates. In this house, dreams matter, but they are also treated with a certain respectful caution. Not every image is an omen. Not every fragment is a message. Some are simply the mind's odd echoes. The line between those categories is not always clear, especially to the young. "The kind that clings," her grandfather prompts gently, using an old phrase. "Like wet wool, or like burrs in a sheep's fleece." Runa nods. Yes. He does not press her right away. Instead, he reaches for a small bundle hanging from a nearby peg, dried leaves tied with a bit of yarn. He holds it briefly over the growing flames, not so close that it burns, just enough that heat begins to tease out its scent. A soft, earthy smell fills the air, part herb, part smoke. Runa breathes it in and feels something in her chest loosen. Her grandfather is not a formal healer, But like many elders, he knows certain plants that calm the body. This one, she has been told, is good for troubled thoughts at night. Whether its magic is in the plant itself or in the ritual of heating it over the coals, she is not entirely sure. Perhaps it is both. "Tell me," he says quietly when the scent has spread through the small immediate circle of warmth. So she does. She tells him of the ice trees shining from within, of the strange silence in that dream forest, of the sense that something waited just out of sight, patient and watchful, but not, she thinks, hostile. She tells him how she walked between those frozen trunks without feeling cold, how each step on the snow made no sound at all. Her grandfather listens, his lined face lit intermittently by the fire's glow. He does not interrupt. When she finishes, he is silent for a while, looking past her into the darkness where other family members sleep. "There are many kinds of winter in the world," he says at last. "The one outside these walls is only one of them. Some winters are of the air, some are of the heart, some are of time itself, when things seem to stand still, waiting." He pokes the fire once, watching sparks rise and vanish. "Ice that shines from inside," he muses. "Trees that are not really trees. Silence without fear." "Is it bad?" Runa asks softly. He shakes his head. "No, not bad. I think it is a dream of seeing things more clearly than usual, of walking in a place where the noise of the world is quiet so that small things can be noticed. Perhaps it is telling you that this winter you will come to understand something that has so far been hidden." "What?" she asks. "If I knew that," her grandfather says, a faint smile tugging at his mouth, "the dream would belong to me, not to you." Runa thinks about this. The fire pops softly. Somewhere behind them, someone shifts in sleep. The bundle of herbs continues to release its calm, steady fragrance. Night as a teacher. In houses like this, at hours like this, wisdom travels in very small steps. There are no grand speeches, no formal lessons written in ink. Knowledge is carried in stories, in quiet comments made when only a few are awake to hear them, in the shared interpretation of dreams and signs. Night plays its part as a teacher precisely because it slows things down. Without bright light, tasks must be simple. Without structured schedules, conversations can meander. Without the constant stimulation of devices and distant voices, attention turns inward and toward those immediately present. Runa's grandfather does not present his thoughts about her dream as absolute truth. He speaks in images and possibilities, leaving space for her own understanding to grow. Over years, she will hear many such interpretations from him and from others. Some will resonate deeply, some will feel wrong and be set aside. Through this process, she will build her own inner map of symbols, her own sense of how the unseen world speaks to her. For now, she simply sits in the half-light, feeling her heartbeat slow, feeling the last intensity of the dream soften into a quieter presence within her. The ice forest no longer feels like something pressing urgently against the edges of her mind. It feels more like a place she has visited and may visit again, in sleep or in waking imagination. The fire burns a little stronger. Her grandfather, satisfied that she has settled, begins to speak of something else. A small memory from his youth, perhaps, of a winter when snow buried the house almost up to the roof and they had to tunnel their way out, or of a journey taken over frozen sea to trade with distant kin. His words roll gently through the air, their rhythm soothing. Runa listens, but not with the sharp, focused attention of daytime. Her mind drifts in and out, catching some phrases, letting others slide past like slow water. This, too, is a kind of preparation for returning to sleep. The mind, after traveling briefly into wakefulness and reflection, is being walked slowly back toward the edge of the dream country. The shared watch. Elsewhere in the longhouse, not everyone is fully asleep anymore. A woman toward the far end, whose task it is to tend the animals, has woken as well. She felt a slight change in the air, a different scent from the byre at the back of the house, a low sound from one of the cows, and her body, trained by many winters, responded before her conscious mind could form any questions. She rises, wraps herself in a cloak, and moves carefully past sleeping forms. Near the animals, the air is warmer and heavier, rich with the smell of hay, dung, and living breath. She listens, eyes half closed. A cow shifts, a goat stamps once. Nothing alarming. Still, she moves slowly along the row, laying a hand on each large warm flank, murmuring soft nonsense words that soothe both beast and human speaker. This middle-of-the-night check is not something she resents. It is part of the rhythm of her role, as natural to her as drawing water at dawn. It reminds her that while others sleep, she is one of the eyes and ears that keep the house safe. Later, when she returns to her place on the sleeping platform, that sense of having quietly done something useful will help her sink back into rest without the nagging feeling of unfinished duty. In this way, the household safety is spread across many shoulders. Some wake briefly and listen for threats. Some tend the fire. Some watch over animals. No one person is solely responsible at all times. Instead, a web of overlapping awareness holds the night. For modern people who often lie awake alone in silent apartments or separated bedrooms, it can be hard to imagine how deeply this shared vigilance changes the feeling of the dark. Fear does not vanish entirely. This is still a world where danger exists, but it is less likely to swell into the kind of lonely anxiety that keeps sleep at bay. The return to the second sleep. As the interval of wakefulness continues, its intensity gradually ebbs. The fire, now decently revived, settles into a steady, smaller flame. The woman at the back of the house, satisfied with her check on the animals, returns to her place and lies down again. Runa's grandfather finishes his story and falls quiet, nodding once more towards his folded cloaks and the supporting wall. Runa herself, now feeling heavier, stretches and carefully returns to her sleeping spot. Her brother, still holding his carved horse, has not stirred. She curls in behind him, tucks her cold toes against the backs of his legs, and pulls the blanket up under her chin. Around her, the sounds of the house soften again. The middle, wakeful layer of the night thins and dissolves. The community, having done what quiet work and watching it needed to do, lets itself slide once more into deeper rest. This second sleep feels different to Runa than the first. The earlier, heavier falling felt like dropping a stone into a deep lake. This one feels more like stepping into water, while already somewhat wet, familiar, easy, natural. Her body remembers the way. Her mind, having briefly visited the surface, now folds itself more willingly into the strange light of dreams. Whether she returns to the ice forest or travels somewhere entirely different, she will not know until morning. The dream world, for her people, is not something to be fully controlled. It is a country partly shared with gods and unknown forces. One does not demand specific paths there, one receives what comes and only later tries to understand. Outside, the night continues its course over snowy fields and frozen streams. Inside, the longhouse once again breathes in unison with its sleeping inhabitants. The room grows quieter, the patterns of movement smaller and slower. Embers pulse red, then dim, then flare again when a hidden pocket of resin catches. Time moves on, but no one is counting. What the dark allows. Across many winters and many generations, this pattern repeats with small variations. Sometimes the interval between sleeps is longer, sometimes shorter. Sometimes it is filled with more work. Sometimes with more story. Sometimes with simple, meditative, sitting in silence. But always, it exists as a recognized and accepted part of the night. The effect of this on the people's inner lives is subtle but profound. They are accustomed to having a space in the middle of the night when the world is quiet, but they themselves are not entirely unconscious. It is a time when worries can be smoothed out gently, rather than tossed restlessly on a pillow, when half-formed ideas can drift in and out without the harsh light of day demanding decisions, when dreams can be spoken aloud while they are still fresh and vibrating with meaning. In such a culture, the dark is not merely a lack of light. It is a container for certain kinds of thought and experience that do not fit easily into daylight hours. It is a companion to the village's waking life, not its opposite. Modern people who struggle with waking in the middle of the night often do so in an atmosphere of pressure. Pressure to perform at work the next day. Pressure to function on a fixed number of hours of rest. Pressure born of books and articles insisting on good sleepers and bad sleepers. When they wake, their first thought is often worry. Why am I awake? What is wrong with me? How will I manage tomorrow? In this longhouse, those questions would not arise in the same way. Waking in the middle of the night does not mean failure. It is simply part of the expected shape of the dark. Here, the night is long enough to hold both sleep and gentle wakefulness, both dream and reflection. It does not have to be all one thing or the other. And so, inside this shelter of wood and turf, under a sky the color of deep iron, a small community continues to live its nights in a rhythm that modern science is only beginning to recognize as deeply natural. The fire burns, the people rest. Between them, in that threshold space where sleep loosens its hold but does not fully release it, something quiet and enduring grows, a kind of wisdom that belongs equally to the body and the soul. Shizgam, a man of the day, a man of the night. In the same longhouse where Runa and her grandfather sleep, there is a man named Leaf. By day, he is many things at once. A farmer who reads the soil with his hands, a woodcutter whose axe knows the language of trees, a sometimes warrior whose body remembers the weight of shield and spear. His shoulders are broad from years of lifting, his palms thick with callus. The lines at the corners of his eyes come not only from squinting into snow-bright distance, but also from long periods of watchfulness. Like most in his community, Leif's life is shaped by the cycle of seasons and the demands of survival. In summer, his days are long and full, tending fields, mending fences, repairing boats, training younger men in the arts of combat and endurance. In autumn, he helps gather and store what the land has yielded. In spring, he plans and prepares. And in winter, when the ground is iron and the sea is cruel, his work changes shape but does not disappear. Wood must still be cut, nets mended, tools sharpened by the low glow of fire. Yet winter also forces a slowing, a turning inward. The long nights give his body time to heal from the minor injuries, and aware of the other seasons, they also offer him something rarer, time for thoughts that do not fit easily between daily tasks. Leif is not a man who speaks much about such things. His words, when he uses them, are mostly practical, about the right way to lash a beam, the best time to plant barley, or the route he once sailed between unfamiliar islands. But in the quiet spaces of night, another layer of his mind comes forward, one that wonders about the strange paths of fate, about the meaning of certain dreams, about whether the choices he has made will be remembered kindly by those who come after him. The weight he carries tonight, after another long day of winter labor. Leif lies stretched on the straw-covered platform near the center of the long house, close to the hearth. This is not just because he is strong or male. This place is his due as head of this particular household, the one whose name is spoken first when others refer to this family. The warmer, more central spots go to those with responsibility as much as to those with status. He can feel, even through cloak and blanket, the press of straw against his back, uneven but familiar. His feet are warmed by the nearness of another body, his wife Asa, who already breathes with the shallow rhythm of early sleep. Beyond her, their youngest child lies curled in a tight ball, fists tucked under chin, hair a wild halo against the wool. The sounds of the house at this hour are ones Leif knows as well as his own heartbeat. The muffled clink of a wooden bowl being set aside for the night. The low murmur of someone finishing a quiet conversation. The small rattle of dried herbs as a bundle is adjusted on its peg. Then gradually, one after another, these human noises melt away into a single gentle murmur of shared rest. For a while, Leif remains awake. His body is tired thigh muscles aching from walking through deep snow, shoulders sore from hauling logs. But the tiredness feels honest, earned. It is different from the exhaustion that comes from unresolved worry, from the grinding weariness of too many days without decent sleep. This fatigue is more like a calm heaviness, inviting him downward. Yet as his eyes close and the warmth of blankets begins to seep into his bones, a familiar set of thoughts drifts up. Images of fields that must be planned for spring. Calculations about how long the stored grain will last if the winter is longer than expected. The memory of a storm at sea many years ago when a friend's boat did not return. In another kind of life, in another age, these thoughts might keep him awake for hours, circling in his mind without resolution. Here, in this environment, they behave differently. The quiet comfort of many bodies nearby, the flicker of the hearth, the accepted pattern of the night, all work together to soften their sharp edges. Leif takes a slow breath, feeling the air cool as it enters his nose, then warm again as he exhales. The rhythm of his chest begins to match the larger rhythm of the sleeping house. One by one, the practical concerns of tomorrow sink below the surface. What remains is a more diffuse, almost wordless awareness of his place among these people, of the turning of seasons, of the fact that for this one night, at least, they are all alive and under one roof. He lets that knowledge be enough. Sleep, when it comes, does not pounce. It arrives like mist over a river, gradual, quiet, covering shapes without entirely erasing them. The dreams of a working man. Leif's dreams are not always prophetic or grand. Often, they are woven from the materials of his days. The gleam of an axe blade in pale winter sunshine. The pattern of bark on birch and pine, the feeling of stepping into a boat that rocks gently under his weight. Sometimes he dreams of rowing for a long time, the oars dipping and lifting in a steady, soothing rhythm, the sound of water against wood like the slow beating of a drum. Tonight, the first dream that comes is of walking through the fields near his home, but they are not as they are now, lying under snow. In the dream, the land is caught between seasons. Snowmelt runs in thin silver streams between rows of dark, wet earth. Tiny green shoots are just beginning to break through, filled with fragile promise. The sky is a clear, pale blue. He walks slowly, hands clasped behind his back, feeling the mud soft under his boots. As he moves, he notices details that in waking life he might overlook. The particular curve of a sprouting leaf, the small stones half buried in the soil, the way light scatters on water in the furrows. There is no one else in the dream, no storms, no enemies, no urgent voices calling his name, only the land and his own quiet presence in it. A sense of peace soaks into him as he walks. In the distance, he sees the outline of the longhouse, but he does not hurry toward it. There is no need. The house is not a goal to be reached, but a given, a constant. He knows it is there, and that is enough. For a man whose waking hours are full of tasks, this simple dream of wordless walking is its own kind of medicine. When he finally drifts up again toward partial wakefulness, sometime in the middle of the night, the echo of that calm field remains. The middle waking through another's eyes. Leif's eyes open to a thin wash of firelight sliding along the roof beams. He hears small sounds, the crackle of a new log catching flame, the faint whisper of someone shifting near the hearth. He does not rise all at once. Instead, he lets his awareness expand slowly, like a circle drawn outward from his own still body. To his left, Asa still sleeps, though her face is turned slightly toward the fire. The child beyond her mumbles something unintelligible and settles again. Across the hearth, he can just make out the shape of Runa's grandfather, propped on his folded cloaks, head bowed as if dozing in a sitting position. Near the coals, someone is crouched with a cloak drawn up tight. He squints and recognizes Runa's small, intent form. Leif feels a tiny thread of satisfaction at this sight. The younger ones are learning without needing to be constantly instructed, learning to tend the fire, to move silently through a sleeping house, to understand that night holds tasks as well as day. His family will not always need him to be strong and watchful. Others will grow into those roles. He lies still a moment longer, listening. The animals at the far end of the house shift now and then. A faint scent of some warmed herb rides above the common smell of smoke. Leif inhales it and feels an unexpected ease in his chest. He could force himself up now, make another round of checks, rehearse again the familiar path of responsibility. But he does not feel that tug tonight. No sense of lurking danger pulls at him. No inner urgency demands more action. Instead, he simply rolls onto his side, the straw rustling under his weight, and watch conversation, words too soft for him to catch. To an outsider, it might seem that Leif is doing nothing in this moment. Yet something delicate is happening inside him. By allowing himself to rest awake without immediate purpose, he is giving his mind space to settle on new thoughts. He notices, for example, how the girl's posture has changed over the past year, from the loose, unself-conscious flopping of childhood to a more deliberate way of holding herself. He wonders, without yet forming it into a decision when she might be ready for more serious training in the tasks of survival. He thinks briefly of his own father, long gone now, whose face sometimes returns to him only in dreams. He tries to recall the way that man's hands looked when they held an axe, how he laughed, how he frowned. These reflections drift through him like the slow current of a deep river. He does not hold on tightly to any one of them. The night does not demand conclusions. Letting go of the shield. There is another layer of Leif's experience that only reveals itself fully at night. The release of tension from years of being, in one way or another, a protector. Out in the world, even in peacetime, he moves with a certain alertness. His eyes check the edges of fields and the line of distant trees, almost without his willing it. His ears stay half attuned to the tone of a dog's bark, the particular silence that often precedes the arrival of a stranger. The places where his armor has rested in the past, across shoulders, on forearms, still remember the pressure. This habit of readiness is useful. It has helped keep his family secure through years when raids were more common, when old feuds flared up without warning, when a poorly timed journey might end badly. Yet such constant readiness, if never eased, can harden a man, shortening his temper, tightening his body, shortening his sleep. Inside the longhouse at night, held in the soft net of shared rest, Leif's body gradually learns to loosen its grip. He does not consciously say to himself, "Now I can relax." It happens by degrees, as muscles unwind, as breathing deepens, as the emotional work of the day is given to dreams and the half-waking reflections of the middle night. When he allows himself to lie awake, not to plan or calculate, but simply to be, he is, in effect, lowering a shield he has held for many hours. The familiar ache between his shoulder blades eases a little. The line of his jaw softens. Even his thoughts, which often march in directed sequences during the day, begin to wander in less rigid paths. It is as if the night, with its extended stretches of darkness and its accepted periods of quiet wakefulness, offers him a chance to practice a different way of existing. One in which not every moment must be guarded, in which he can trust that for a time, others are carrying part of the watch. This trust is not naive. Leif knows as well as anyone that danger is real. But he also knows that a man who never sleeps fully, who never lets his mind and body drop their burden for a while, will eventually falter at the very times he most needs to be strong. So, when he feels his eyes growing heavy again after a while of watching the quiet movement at the hearth, he does not fight it. He lets the weight of his body press into straw, lets his thoughts blur at the edges, and allows himself to fall once more into the second sleep that waits like deep water below him. The dreams that carry more weight, not all of Leif's dreams, are simple as walking in fields. Some have edges that bite more sharply into memory. On another night, some weeks later, after hearing news that an old acquaintance has been lost at sea, he goes to bed with his mind more troubled. The house is no less warm, the fire no less steady, but in his chest there is a knot of fear and sorrow that resists easy smoothing. In the first sleep, his body still finds enough rest to drop quickly into unconsciousness. But his dreaming mind goes to stormy places. He finds himself standing on the deck of a ship in the heavy seas. Waves slam against the hull, sending sprays of icy water into his face. Wind roars in his ears. Around him, men shout, but their words are lost in the tumult. He grips a rope with one hand, the edge of the shield with the other. The sky above is a swirl of dark clouds, no stars visible. The ship pitches wildly, the deck slick under his boots. At some point in the dream, he realizes he cannot see the shoreline at all, not even as a faint suggestion. The world has become water, wind, and wood alone. Fear rises in his throat like another wave. He feels it as a physical thing, a tightening of his chest, a hollowness under his ribs. At the same time, another part of him, the part that has stood in real storms, begins to move through familiar motions, checking the sail, bracing knees, shouting instructions. Then, without transition, he is no longer on the ship. He is standing on a shore of black rock, soaked but alive. The sea before him is fierce but held at a certain distance, as if by an invisible line. In his dream, he knows without needing to be told that someone has been claimed by those waters, someone whose name he recognizes. He cannot say whether this dream is a simple echo of his grief and fear, or something more, a symbolic message, a vision. In his culture, such a distinction is not as sharp as it is in others. What matters is how the dream feels and what it prompts in him when he wakes. The way the night holds sorrow. He wakes from this sea dream in the middle of the night with his heart pounding, the air of the longhouse feeling suddenly too thick. For a moment, he does not know where he is. The roar of the imagined wind still fills his ears. His hands, in the dark, reach for ropes and find only the rough wool of blankets. Slowly, the solid facts of his surroundings reassert themselves. The faint glow of the banked fire, the warmth of a familiar body against his side, the soft murmur of many sleepers. The storm, he realizes, remains only in his mind. He lies there, breathing hard, while his heartbeat gradually returns to its steadier rhythm. In the silence around him, he hears someone sigh in their sleep, a child whimper and be soothed by a half-conscious touch, the low snort of a cow shifting in the back of the house. In another kind of dwelling, in another time, he might be alone with this sudden rush of fear and grief. Here, he is surrounded by life. Without speaking, without anyone waking fully to attend to him, the presence of others works a slow, calming effect. He turns onto his back and stares up into the darkness. The dream lingers, as some dreams do, sitting heavy on his chest. There is no space at this hour for loud expressions of grief, but there is space for a private conversation with the unseen. Leif closes his eyes again and, in the quiet of his mind, speaks words not loud enough for even his own ears. They are not fully formed prayers in the way a priest might teach. They are more like a direct address to whatever lies beyond the visible world, to the spirits of sea and storm, to the gods who are said to claim the fallen, to the unnameable fabric of fate itself. He does not ask for miracles. He knows the dead do not return. Instead, he asks for two simpler things: that he may accept what has happened without letting bitterness take root in him, and that he may continue to protect those still within his reach. He asks, without naming it as such, for the strength to live well with the awareness of loss. As he breathes and thinks these thoughts, the raw intensity of the dream's images begins to blur at the edges. The black stones, the howling wind, the vanishing ship. Each recedes just a little. In their place comes a quieter, duller ache, less like a stabbing pain, and more like a bruise that will change color with time. The middle interval of this night does not contain any spinning or storytelling. It is filled instead with this internal work, the slow, wordless rearrangement of sorrow into something he can carry without being crushed. At some point, without his noticing exactly when, the edge between wakefulness and sleep softens again. His thoughts lose their sharp outline. The sounds of the house grow dim. The second sleep takes him, deeper and kinder than the first. How the body remembers kindness. When morning comes after such a night, Leif does not leap up rested as if nothing has happened. He feels the echo of the dream in his chest and shoulders, a heaviness that lingers. Yet he also feels that he has not been entirely alone with his fear. The long, extended shape of the night, the first sleep, the middle waking, the second sleep, has given him more room to process than a shorter, rigid block ever could. His body, too, has been given enough time in stillness to repair some of the strain of earlier days. The muscles that tensed during the storm dream have had another few hours to relax afterward. The shared warmth of the sleeping house has kept his core temperature steady, allowing deeper phases of rest even when his mind wandered through darker landscapes. As he rises and begins the morning's tasks, checking the state of the fire, stepping outside into the knife-cold air to gauge the weather, planning the day with Asa. He moves a little more slowly than usual, but not broken. The dream has left its mark, but it has not taken all of his strength. Over time, this pattern repeats with many different emotions. Worry about harvests, anger at insults given by others, joy at births, brief surges of pride or shame. The long nights, with their built-in space for light wakefulness, act like a kind of woven cloth into which such feelings are gradually worked, spread out so that no single thread bears too much strain. Leif may never speak of this in these exact terms, but in his bones, he knows that winter is not only a season of hardship, it is also a season of rest in which his body and mind, battered by the year's labors, can mend themselves in ways that are as real as any visible repair of wood or tool. The gift hidden in the dark. For a man like Leif, who carries much on his shoulders, the night does not simply erase the day. It transforms it. Dreams turn hard facts into images that can be felt from different angles. The middle waking gives him a space where the guard can drop without collapsing entirely, where grief can be acknowledged without overwhelming him, where quiet observation of family and fire can remind him of what he is protecting. In a world without clocks, without electric lights, without the constant intrusion of distant troubles through invisible lines, this nightly pattern emerges naturally. It is not planned as therapy. It is not designed as a ritual of mental health. It arises from necessity, from environment, from habits passed down because they work. Modern science may speak of hormone cycles, of REM sleep, of the effects of communal living on stress levels. But for Leif and those like him, the understanding is simpler and no less true. The body needs time to rest. The spirit needs time to wander and to heal. And the night is long enough to hold both. As he moves through another winter, another series of long nights and brief days, he does not envy those who might someday try to force all their rest into a neat, unbroken block. He would find such a demand unnatural, even cruel. The world itself is not so cleanly divided. Why should sleep be? And so, when darkness once again folds over the snow-clad fields and the longhouse becomes a soft ember in the wide cold, Leif lies down among his family, feeling the familiar press of straw, the weight of wool, the nearness of breathing bodies. He knows that in this enclosure, both his weariness and his worries will be met by the only physicians his culture truly trusts: time, darkness, shared warmth, and dreams. Walking the longhouse with your eyes closed, imagine for a moment that you are not lying in your own bed, but inside that Norse longhouse. You do not have to move your body. It is enough to move your attention slowly, as if you are walking in thought from one end of the house to the other. The night is deep, and the only light comes from the hearth at the center. The flames are low, but the coals are bright, a soft, living red. Above them, a few thin tongues of fire rise and curl, licking quietly at the underside of a blackened pot or at a new log placed earlier in the night. Around and above, the roof beams disappear into shadow, their outlines hinted at only when a flicker of flame grows strong enough to touch them. You begin at one end of the longhouse, nearest the door that opens to the outside. There, the air is a little cooler, edged with a trace of winter draft. The heavy wooden door is barred for the night, but a faint breath of the outer cold still seeps through cracks between planks, carrying with it the subtle scent of snow and frozen earth. Near this entrance, cloaks hang from pegs driven into the wall. In the dimness, they are only darker shapes against the barely lighter background of timber and turf. Some are rough and thick, made from undyed wool. Others, belonging to those who have traveled far or who have traded well, show a hint of pattern or of richer dye. A muted red, a deep blue, a soft green. Their fringes sway slightly when the wind outside presses harder against the door, as if the garments are breathing with the weather. At your feet, still in imagination, you feel the floor. Not smooth boards, but hard-packed earth. In some places, flat stones have been set to make a more solid surface where people walk most often. A thin scatter of straw softens certain patches. Here and there, your mind's toes brush against small things left from the day. A wood chip, a lost thread, a seed husk from earlier threshing. To one side, near the door, stands a low bench where outer boots are taken off and set aside at night. Leather, wet from snow or damp from earlier slush, has been placed where it can dry slowly, not too close to the direct heat of the hearth. You can almost smell it, that faint animal tang of cured hide, mixed with traces of earth and moisture. The longhouse stretches ahead of you, a dark tunnel of shared life. The slow drift toward the center. As your awareness drifts inward from the door, the temperature rises, degree by slow degree. The further you go from the cold outer wall, the more insulated you feel, as if wrapped gradually in layers of invisible cloth. On both sides of the central space, the long wooden platforms begin. They are raised just enough from the earth to avoid the ground's deepest chill, perhaps knee-high or a little less. By day, they serve as places to sit, to work, to eat. Now, in the center of the night, they are covered in sleeping forms. You do not step on those platforms. You simply let your gaze, your inner gaze rest gently on what lies there. A pile of straw, flattened and warmed by bodies, fills the surface of one section. Over it, a broad sheepskin spreads, its wool side facing up, soft and slightly rumpled. Two people lie upon it, backs turned toward the wall, faces angled slightly toward the fire's faint glow. Their features are mostly in shadow, but you can see the slow rise and fall of their shoulders. Un has an arm thrown out in sleep, fingers half curled, catching a sliver of bronze light from the coals. Farther along, a child has wriggled partly free of their blanket, small bare feet poking out into the cooler air. Someone, perhaps, while half awake, has already tugged the cloth back over them once, but in sleep, the child has kicked it askew again. The foot is motionless now, pale in the low light. You know that before morning, at least once more, a nearby adult hand will reach out automatically in the dark to pull the cover back into place. Care flows here without the need for full waking. Above the platforms, against the walls, wooden pegs and simple shelves hold the small belongings of this community. Belts, knives in their sheaths, bags of herbs, simple wooden boxes containing tools or treasured trinkets. Each object is part of a quiet story, someone's daily work, someone's journey, someone's family line. At this hour, all those stories are resting too, gently set aside like the items themselves. The hearth at the heart. Step now, in your mind, closer to the center of the longhouse, where the hearth sits open and steady. The fire pit is a shallow, elongated hollow in the earth floor, its edges darkened by many seasons of heat and ash. Stones ring part of it, scattered in a pattern that only the household truly understands. Some mark spots where pots can sit without tipping. Others serve as support for wooden poles used to hang cooking vessels earlier in the day. Now, most of those poles are empty. A single iron pot may still rest near the coals, holding water kept warm overnight for morning use. The coals themselves are a subtle landscape. They glow brightest at the center, where the heat is most intense, fading to duller reds and browns toward the edges. Thin grey ash lies soft over some parts, like a dusting of snow, when a small draft moves through the house, when someone shifts, or the wind presses differently against the roof. A tiny veil of ash may lift and swirl, showing for a moment the brighter embers beneath. Above the fire, smoke gathers slowly and then drifts toward the smoke hole in the roof. It does not rise in a straight column, but in shifting ribbons, pushed and pulled by little air currents created by the difference in warmth between hearth and walls. In the dimness, you can just make out its movement, a soft blurring of air, a hint of silver grey that catches the fire's light and then vanishes upward. The smell here is complex, but not harsh. There is the deep, resinous scent of wood that has burned all-day pine, perhaps, or birch, each with its own character. There is the faint sweetness of something boiled earlier, still clinging to the pot and the air. There are threads of dried herbs hung from the rafters, slowly releasing their quiet fragrance in the gentle warmth. Stand here, just stand, in imagination, beside the hearth. Feel what it does, not only warming the skin, but giving shape to the room. Everything in this longhouse is arranged with the fire in mind. It is the sun of this small night world, the center around which sleeping constellations lie. Even when eyes are closed, everyone's sense of space includes the hearth. They know in their bodies where it is, how far their platform lies from it, how the heat will reach them in different seasons. In the middle of a storm, when wind screams against the walls, the steady glow of these coals will be their proof that, inside this circle of light and warmth, life holds. The quiet geometry of bodies and roles. From the hearth, let your attention move outward again, this time not along the walls, but in a slow circle, noticing how people are placed around this central glow. Closer to the fire, in the warmest spots, lie those whose bodies most need the heat, the very young, the very old, the sick, and those whose responsibilities bind the household together. Heads of families rest here, not only as a mark of status, because their strength must be preserved, their health maintained. If something happens in the night, they must be ready to act. Farther from the hearth, where the air cools more quickly, sleep younger, stronger bodies, almost as if they are an additional layer of insulation around the most vulnerable. They are still warm, still comfortable under their blankets and furs, but their youth allows them to endure a slightly greater chill without harm. The architecture of warmth here doubles as the architecture of social structure and care. Near the doors, where drafts are most likely, lie those who are often first to rise in the morning, the ones who will open the longhouse to dawn, who will step out into the cold with axes or buckets or tools, who will face whatever might be waiting beyond the threshold. They sleep with the knowledge that when morning comes, it will come to them first. Yet there is no harshness in these arrangements. They have grown organically over time, out of a mix of necessity, custom, affection, and unspoken understanding. If a child is ill, it is moved nearer to the fire without question. If an elder complains of cold, spaces are shuffled, blankets adjusted. The longhouse, though built of wood and turf, behaves like a living organism, adapting its inner shape night by night to the needs of those within it. Small islands of privacy. To modern eyes, the longhouse might seem completely open, every life unfolded in public for all to see. But even here, in this communal space, there are small islands of privacy, small gestures that say, "This is my corner of the night." Between certain sections of the sleeping platforms, woven cloths or hanging furs have been suspended from beams. They do not create true rooms, but they soften the line of sight, break the long interior into gentler segments. A couple might draw such a curtain partially shut at night, not to hide entirely. No one can be fully hidden here, but to create a feeling of boundary, of a little enclosure within the greater one. Elsewhere, a box bed, a kind of wooden chest large enough for a person to lie in, has been built into the wall. Its front can be partly closed with sliding panels or a hanging skin, turning it into a snug cave of warmth and dimness. A light sleeper might find comfort there, the solid wood at their back and sides making them feel held. The sound of the house is muffled inside such a space, though not erased. These small structures, these curtains and carved niches, are the ancestors of the private bedrooms that will come centuries later. But here, they do not yet serve to separate individuals from the life of the group. They serve instead to give shape to that life, to create different textures of closeness. Behind a curtain, voices must be lower. Within a box bed, one hears the house as if through a gentle veil. As your inner gaze moves past one such curtain now, you sense the subtle change in atmosphere on either side. Out here, the faint murmur of many breaths and the soft crackle of fire. In there, a deeper quiet, broken perhaps only by the small whisper of fabric when someone shifts against the wooden wall. The other end, beasts and spirits. Continue in your quiet walk toward the far end of the longhouse, away from the main door, past the center of sleeping platforms and the hearth. The air grows warmer and thicker here, touched not only by human presence, but by other lives. This is where the animals are kept during the coldest months. Cows, goats, sheep, perhaps a horse. They stand or lie in their stalls, separated from the human space by low partitions or by habit rather than solid walls. The smell is richer here. Hay, manure, the warm, damp exhale of living creatures larger than humans. In the dark, you hear them as much as you see them. the slow grind of teeth as a cow chews cud, the occasional rustle of hooves shifting position, a soft chuff of breath. Now and then, one animal lets out a small sound, a half moo, a bleat that is barely a syllable, and another answers, or does not. Most of the time, they too are resting, bodies engaged in their own cycles of digestion and repair. Somewhere just beyond the edge of the stalls, tools lean against the wall, rakes, pitchforks, perhaps a sled or yoke. In the faint light reaching this far, their outlines blur into one another. They stand like quiet sentinels, their usefulness temporarily suspended. This end of the longhouse feels different in another way as well. For many in this culture, it is closer to the unseen. Animals, with their wordless awareness, are often considered more sensitive to shifts in weather, in spirit, even in fate. The far end of a house where beasts and certain storage spaces lie may feel to some like a thinner place between worlds. It is here, perhaps, that offerings of grain or ale are sometimes left for household spirits, small guardian beings thought to share the space with humans and animals, invisible but attentive. A flat stone near the wall might be stained from many such poured libations. A little carved figure might stand beside it, a simple face cut into wood, watching year after year. At night, this corner is quiet but not empty. The sense of presence here is subtle, not frightening, at least not to those who belong to the house. It is more like the feeling of being watched over than the feeling of being watched. Takernam, the house itself as a body. When you draw all these impressions together, the door and its cold breath, the hanging cloaks, the sleeping platforms, the hearth, the curtains and box beds, the animals and altar stones, a larger image starts to form. The longhouse itself as a kind of body with its own organs and circulation. The hearth is the heart, pulsing warmth outward with every shift of flame. The door is the mouth, taking in what comes from outside and releasing what must leave. The sleeping platforms are ribs and muscles wrapped around the central heat. The rafters are bones, holding the whole shape together. The animals at one end are like a second, slower heartbeat, their heavy warmth echoing the human one at the center. Within this wooden body, human bodies rest, aligned with its rhythm. Their breath, combined, warms the air. Their dreams, combined, create a kind of shared night mind that stretches from one end of the house to the other. No single person's internal world is entirely separate. Stories told in one part of the house echo mentally in another. A murmur of concern near the animals can wake a half-sleeping parent near the door, ready to help. The architecture is simple, but the effect is complex. It shapes not only how people move and work, but how they sleep, how they feel, how they understand their place in the world. Surrounded by wood, earth, fur, straw, smoke, and the nearness of others, they seldom face the night as isolated individuals. They meet it as parts of a greater whole. Listening again from your own bed. Now gently, let this imagined longhouse fade. Keep, if you wish, only a few of its details. The glow of embers in the center of a dark room, the soft rise and fall of many breaths, the comfort of knowing that others are near, even if you cannot see them. You can carry this image back with you to your own sleeping place, wherever it is, even if you sleep alone, in a modern apartment, in a quiet house with closed doors. The memory of that communal breathing space can change how you feel about the dark around you. When you wake in the middle of the night, as so many do not, with the relief of runa or leaf, but with flickers of worry. You might recall the rhythm of that older world. You might remember that waking at such an hour need not be an emergency, need not be a problem to solve immediately. It can be a quiet interval, like the calm path Runa's grandfather walked with her in thought, like the gentle, watchful wakefulness Leif allowed himself during the middle of the night. You can imagine that you are simply moving in your mind from the door toward the hearth, from the edges of your own life's longhouse toward its warm center. You can picture your thoughts as straw being smoothed, as a new log placed gently on coals, as a curtain drawn halfway to create a little softness, but not full separation. The longhouse, with its ancient timbers and sleeping families, may be far away in time, yet the shape of its naida, the way it holds both solitude and closeness, both wakefulness and rest, can still offer something to anyone seeking sleep now. In that sense, its architecture is not only wood and turf, it is also a pattern of being, one that can be rebuilt quietly inside your own mind whenever you need a gentler way to move through the dark. Stepping outside into the winter night, imagine now that the bar across the longhouse door has been lifted, not with haste or fear, but with the slow, deliberate movement of someone who knows the weight of the wood and the way the hinges sound. The latch is eased aside. The heavy door leans inward, letting in a thin blade of outside air, so cold it feels almost sharp. For a moment, the longhouse hesitates, as if breathing in. The warmth inside meets the cold outside at the threshold, creating a brief swirl of air that touches everyone nearest the door with a whisper of winter. Then a figure steps through and pulls the door gently shut again. Inside, the bar is lowered once more. The house returns to its red-lit darkness. But you have gone with that figure, in imagination, out into the night. The first thing you notice is the sky. It is vast, wider than the roof beams could ever suggest. On some nights, it is a deep black, velvet-like, speckled with small sharp stars. On others, faint clouds blur the sparkling points, turning them to soft smudges of light. And on some rare nights, bands of pale green or milky white drift across the heavens, moving so slowly it takes time to see that they are moving at all. The northern lights, shimmering like spirits dancing on the edge of sight. Tonight, the sky is clear. Stars shine in enormous number, more than the modern city eye could easily understand. Some are clustered tightly in hazy patches. Others stand alone, bright and cold. The long spine of the Milky Way leans across the darkness like a faintly glowing river in the sky. The air is so cold that each breath feels clean and cutting as it enters your lungs, then turns to a faint mist as you exhale. That mist curls briefly in front of your face and then dissolves into the greater cold. Beneath your feet, the ground is hard. Snow lies thick, its surface slightly crusted from a recent thaw and freeze. In the moonlight, or in the star sheen alone, it gleams with a blue-white glow, smooth in some places, in others marked with prints. Human boots, dog paws, the split hooves of goats and sheep, the deeper, rounder imprints of cattle. All of them tell quiet stories of daily life, frozen in place until the next snowfall rewrites them. You stand for a while outside the longhouse door, letting your eyes adjust fully to the wider dark. Behind you, the house is a low, elongated shape, half buried in earth and snow. From its roof, a thin trail of smoke rises, barely visible now, but carrying the scent of wood and warmth into the open sky. a faint orange glow seeps from the cracks around the door frame, proof that the hearth is alive within. Around you, other shapes emerge. The sleeping village. This longhouse is not alone. Scattered around it, at distances shaped by land and kinship, stand other buildings, some large and long like this one, others smaller, used for storage, for special crafts, for animals. In the near distance, another longhouse humps its back against the night, its roof a dark line under a frosting of snow. A small plume of smoke marks its hearth too. No light leaks from its door. Its inhabitants are deep in their own first or second sleeps, breathing in rhythm with their own central fire. Between your house and theirs, fences sag under the weight of accumulated snow, their posts like blunt teeth in the whiteness. Farther off, a small shed leans slightly downhill, its thatch rimed with frost. Beyond that, a row of drying racks stands like a series of thin, upright ghosts' wooden poles crossed and bound, ready for fish or cloth or nets when the season changes. Now they are empty, or nearly so, their function resting until the world warms again. A few dogs move quietly across this scene, dark shapes slipping through the snow's blue light. They pause now and then to lift their heads and taste the air. They know every scent, the familiar human ones, the reassuring presence of their own kind, the heavy, warm smell of livestock, the sharper tang of fox or weasel that sometimes skirts the edges of the settlement. Occasionally, one dog gives a single soft bark, more of an acknowledgement than an alarm. The others flick their ears and continue their patrol. From one of the distant houses comes the faintest of sounds, a baby's brief cry, muffled almost at once by a comforting touch. The sound travels easily through the clear air, but does not disturb the night's general stillness. It is one small note in the sleeping village's quiet music. Above all this, the stars hang indifferent, patient. Below them, the human world curls into itself like a creature in its den. Light without lamps. In a place without electric lamps, without streetlights or neon signs, darkness is not an enemy, so much as a canvas on which other lights appear. Tonight, the main sources of light are simple and few, the stars and, if present, the moon. The faint breathing glow of hearths seen only in hints of smoke, and the suggestion of brightness behind shutters or cracks. A lantern, perhaps, hanging by a door, its small flame shielded by horn or oiled skin, casting a narrow yellow circle on the snow. Within that circle, details become briefly sharp. The texture of a carved doorpost, the pattern of a leather strap left hanging on a peg, the overlap of sock and boots at the threshold. Step away from it, and the world softens again, blurred and smoothed by shadow. Your own eyes, used to this natural alternation, shift easily between these degrees of darkness. There is no harsh transition between flooded brightness and pitch black. Instead, there is a gradual layering, bright near the lantern, softer a few paces away, softer still where only moonlight reaches, and finally very dark in the folds of terrain or in the shadow of larger buildings. This gentle modulation has its own effect on the mind. It invites a kind of attention that is both sharp and calm. You must look closely to see certain things, but the act of looking does not strain you. There is time. The night is long. The path to the sea. If you begin to walk now, slowly, away from the cluster of buildings, your feet will find a path that many have walked in daylight. A gentle downward slope toward the distant sound of waves. The snow here is less trampled than near the houses. Your steps make a crisp, soft crunch with each movement. Your breath rises and falls. Your body warms slightly with the effort, but the air touching your face remains cold enough to make your cheeks tingle pleasantly. As you move, the village gradually recedes behind you. The shapes of longhouses grow smaller, their smoke trails finer, until they are just a cluster of low, dark humps on the white land. You know they are there, full of sleeping bodies and glowing coals, but they become part of the background. Ahead, the land stretches out, rolling gently. Small stands of leafless trees huddle together like groups of figures bent in conversation, their bare branches ink black against the starry sky. Each twig holds a cap of frost or a small tuft of snow, which catches whatever light there is and gleams faintly. To one side, a low rise shields you briefly from the wind. On the other, an open field gives it freer passage. The sound you heard faintly at first, like a slow, distant sigh, now grows gradually more distinct. It is the sea, moving under its skin of winter. The path you follow does not go straight down to the water. It curves slightly, following the natural dips and ridges of the land. Here and there, stones protrude through the snow, dark and smooth. A few, carefully set upright in earlier times, stand in small groups or lines, markers of property, of boundaries, or perhaps of something older that memory half remembers and half invents. In the dark, they look like waiting figures, patient and still. As you pass, the sound of waves deepens. The winter shore. At last, you come to the edge, where land ends and water begins. The transition is not sharp. Between rock and open sea lies a band of broken ice, floating slabs and crusts that grind gently against one another as the tide moves. In some places, the ice has fused into a narrow shelf that extends a little way from shore, creaking softly under its own slow adjustments. You stand at the very edge, where the snow thins and the dark rock shows through. The air here is sharper still, filled with the salt scent of the sea and the clean metallic tang of ice. Out beyond the band of broken ice, the water is a vast black plain. It moves in slow heaves, each swell lifting and falling in a rhythm that never hurries, never stops. The stars above are reflected faintly in its surface, their light broken and distorted by the constant motion. Now and then, a small white crest appears as a wave topples gently over, then smooths again. Even here, in winter, the sea does not sleep. It is quieter than in a storm, its voice lower, but it continues its endless work, shaping coasts, carrying currents, bearing the unseen passage of fish and other life beneath the surface. To the mind of a northern farmer or sailor, this sight is familiar and layered with meaning. It speaks of past journeys and future risks, of friends lost and goods brought home, of stories passed down about whales, storms, and distant lands where the language changes but the wind tastes much the same. Tonight, however, you simply watch. The sound of the waves becomes a kind of slow breathing in your ears. In as the water climbs the shore, out as it retreats, dragging small stones with it in a gentle clatter. In, out, over and over. The repetition is soothing, like the rock of a cradle or the swing of a boat on a calm sea. If you let your attention rest on this rhythm for a while, without trying to shape it into anything, you may feel your own internal tempo begin to match it. Your inhalations and exhalations fall into step with the waves, your heartbeat relaxes slightly, your shoulders lower by an almost imperceptible degree. In this way, the winter shore becomes another kind of longhouse, a natural enclosing space made not of wood and turf, but of sound and darkness. Here too you are held. The distant ships of memory. Along this coastline, ships are as central to life as fields and cattle. Their shapes, long and narrow with raised prows, have carried generations of men and goods across these waters. Now, in the depth of winter, most of them rest pulled up on shore, covered against snow, their hulls supported by sturdy beams. If you turn slightly from the open sea and walk along the edge of the water, you might find such a resting ship. A dark form beached above the highest reach of the tide, its keel settled into a cradle of stone and wood. Snow has gathered in its hull, softening its lines, but the curve of it is still visible against the background of land and sky. In the half-light, you can imagine it afloat again, rocking gently, its sail furled or full, its oars rising and falling in patient, powerful strokes. The echo of many hands and voices seems to cling to its timbers, held there like a faint warmth. For those who have traveled far and returned, a sleeping ship like this is both promise and memory. It waits for ice to loosen its grip on the shore, for winds to shift, for the year to turn. It is a reminder that winter too will eventually pass, that the long nights will shorten, that the broad, bright days of voyage and trade and exploration will come again. In the context of sleep, this vessel in its winter rest offers another picture. Even things built for motion, for cutting through waves and crossing distances, have their seasons of stillness. They are not always in action. There are times when they must be pulled to shore, supported, protected from the worst of the elements, allowed to be simply what they are without constant strain. Humans, who demand so much of their waking hours, might take a quiet lesson from that. Returning past the fields. When you have spent as much time as you like by the sea, listening to its slow, tidal breathing, you can turn back toward the village. The path upward feels slightly different in this direction. Your feet know its dips and bumps now, so you walk with an easier confidence. The cold has settled into your clothing, but in a way that feels familiar rather than hostile. You know that warmth waits ahead. As you pass the boundary stones and the small stands of trees once more, you may notice details you missed before. The delicate lacework of ice on a low branch, the faint tracks of a hare crossing your path, the soft brushing sound of a dry weed's head as it taps against its own stem in the breeze. The fields you pass are flat under snow, but in your mind's eye, you can see them as they were in autumn, stubbled and golden, or as they will be in a few months, dark earth broken open, ready for seed. This layering of seasons within one view is one of winter's subtle gifts. With less activity to fill the eye, memory and imagination step forward, showing the land not just as it is, but as it has been and will be. For those who live from such fields, this quiet walking in winter is a form of planning without paper. Distances are measured in steps, slopes in the feel of calf muscles straining, soil quality in the remembered give or hardness under earlier feet. At night, in such walks or in dreams that echo them, choices for the coming year begin to form long before hands actually take up seed and plough. The village as a constellation. Soon the cluster of buildings reappears ahead of you, low and dark against the lighter snow. From this slightly elevated vantage point, they look like a small constellation, each longhouse a star with its own faint halo of smoke and warmth. Each shed a lesser point, each enclosure a smaller spark in the pattern. In the stillness of the night, The whole settlement feels like a single, breathing being. It rests now, but within it sleep many minds, some busy with dreams of ships and storms, some drifting through simpler scenes, some held in deep, almost dreamless rest. Here and there, a small light may move, the glow of a candle or ember in a hand, as someone briefly steps outside to empty a pot, to check a creaking beam, to listen for approaching weather. These little moving lights are like the flicker of neurons in a sleeping brain, momentary flares of activity within an overall calm. As you draw closer, the familiar forms of carvings and posts emerge from the blur. Dragon heads at eaves, stylized animal shapes on door frames, symbols whose meanings are felt rather than fully decoded by most who pass them daily. They are touchstones, reminding people of gods, of myths, of the larger patterns in which their individual lives are nested. Back to the longhouse door. You return to the door you first stepped from. Its heavy plank stands solid, edged by frost, where interior warmth has met outside cold. The iron or wooden fittings are dark, chill to the touch. Yet beyond this barrier, you know there is a very different world. Smoke-soft air, whispering sleep, the gentle red of coals. In your mind's hand, you lift the bar once more. It is not an effort of force now, but a small act of choice, a decision to move from the immense, star-filled quiet of the outer night back to the closer, more intimate quiet of the longhouse. The door swings inward with its familiar creak. Warmth wraps around you at once, almost startling after the clear, cutting cold. It carries with it all the scents you had left behind: wool, wood, people, animals, ash and herb. The orange-red light of the hearth dazzles your eyes for a moment, used as they are now to starlight. Figures are only soft silhouettes until your sight adjusts. You lower the bar gently back into place, sealing the house again. The outside night continues on its own vast path, unoffended by your brief departure and return. Inside, nothing has changed, and yet something has. You have walked, if only in thought, through the sleeping village, along the winter shore, under the enormous sky. You have witnessed the scale of the world that cradles this longhouse, and then returned to its snug interior. The contrast makes the hearth's glow even sweeter, the murmur of nearby breaths even more comforting. You step carefully back toward your imagined sleeping place, guided now not by moonlight on snow, but by memory of where the benches lie, where bodies are, where the warmth is deepest. You lie down, again or for the first time, under whatever coverings you have, wool, fur, cloth, and let the last impressions of the winter journey fade. Stars and sea, snow and smoke, distant ships and near hearths, all of them drift together into a soft blur. Your breathing slows. The longhouse, the village, the sea and the sky all continue their own quiet rhythms, and you become, once more, a resting part of them. When night becomes a doorway, for the people of the north, night is not only a time when the body lies still. It is also a doorway, quiet, unassuming, but always present between the seen and the unseen. By day, the world is full of hard edges, the feel of axe on wood, the weight of buckets filled with water, the glare of sun on snow, the sting of cold wind on cheeks and hands. Decisions must be made, work must be done, words must be spoken and heard. The tasks of survival demand attention turned outward. When darkness comes and the longhouse closes itself against the winter, another mode of being gradually takes over. The same people who spend their daylight hours counting fish, measuring grain or guiding ploughs across fields, now find themselves lying still, eyes closed, breathing slowly. The body, freed from the demands of constant motion, yields more easily to gravity and warmth. In that stillness, something else stirs. Thoughts that were half formed in daylight fill out their shapes, questions that could not be answered, about where to travel next year, about whether a marriage should be agreed, about why a child has fallen ill return, but in a slightly different light. Instead of hard, sharp points, they become softer, more suggestive, taking on images rather than remaining only words. This is the realm of dreams, and for the Norse, it is not a trivial one. The respect for dreams. In this culture, dreams are not dismissed as random fictions of a sleeping brain. They are given a place within the larger web of knowledge and belief. Not all dreams are treated as messages, but some clearly are, at least to those who experience them. Elders tell stories of dreams that foretold storms or raids, of visions of ships sinking that were followed days later by bad news from the sea. Sagas. The long narratives that carry the memory of families and heroes are filled with accounts of dreams that hinted at future battles, alliances, betrayals, or blessings. From childhood, people here learn that what they see in sleep may matter. They are encouraged, gently, to notice, to remember, to tell. Not every child will become a seer. Not every person will be known for their prophetic dreams. But everyone grows up with the sense that the night's images belong to the same world as the day's events, not separate, but differently lit. This belief does not mean that all dreams are taken literally. A boy who dreams of a dragon does not necessarily expect to meet a physical monster the next day. Rather, he might learn that such a creature can stand in the language of symbols for danger, for greed, for a great challenge, or even for hidden treasure in a metaphorical sense. To live in such a world is to inhabit a richer texture of reality. Meaning does not end at the edge of waking perception. It seeps gently into the hours when the body lies still and the mind roams freer, smasakan, preparing for sleep, as for a journey. Because dreams are seen as potentially meaningful, the act of going to sleep is treated with a certain quiet respect. It is not only collapse from exhaustion, but also a departure into a place where messages might be received. Each household has its own small habits, but certain patterns are common. As evening deepens and the last tasks fade, someone may clear a small space near the hearth, on a shelf, a flat stone, or a carved post. There they might place a bit of food grain, a piece of bread, a drop of ale, or a simple token such as a carved bead or a small stone, polished smooth by handling. These are offerings, not grand sacrifices, but small gestures of acknowledgement to gods, to ancestors, or to the unseen guardians of the home. A few quiet words might be spoken with them, not loud or formal, but more like the intimate tone one uses with an old friend. Thanks for the day that has passed, a request for protection through the night, a hope for guidance in matters that trouble the heart. Children may not always hear the exact words, but they sense the tone and the rhythm of such acts. For them, the idea that sleep is accompanied by blessings and watched over by benevolent forces becomes part of their inner landscape. Night is, from the start, less frightening because it is not empty. Others, especially those concerned with a particular decision or in search of an answer, might choose a more deliberate preparation. They might wash their faces and hands, symbolically clearing away the dust of the day. They might wrap themselves in a favorite cloak or fur, one associated in their mind with safety or earlier good fortune. They might hold a small object of personal significance, a ring, a carved token, a bit of fabric from a loved one, until drowsiness pulls their fingers slowly open. In all of these actions there is a common thread, a gentle turning of attention inward, a signaling to the self and to whatever unseen listeners there may be that the next hours matter in more ways than one. Herbs and their quiet influence. Plants too have their part in this nightly passage. Hanging from the rafters of the longhouse, bundled and tied with twine, are dried herbs gathered in earlier seasons. Some were harvested for their clear medicinal uses, leaves that ease coughs, roots that help against stomach pains. Others are known, more subtly, for what they seem to do to the mind state. An elder might take down a bundle of such herbs before sleep, perhaps one known to bring calm, another believed to sharpen dreams. A few leaves placed near the hearth, gently warmed but not burned, release their scent slowly into the air, bittersweet, earthy, floral, or resinous, depending on the plant. Breathing these aromas in a house with no competing chemical smells has a noticeable effect. Shoulders relax. Thoughts feel less tangled. The line between waking and sleep grows thinner, but in a way that is comforting rather than disorienting. Whether the plant's effect is purely physical, working through subtle compounds carried into the lungs, or partly symbolic, amplified by generations of belief in its properties, matters little to those who feel its influence. For them, the herb is a small ally on the path to the dreamlands. Sometimes, a healer or wise person in the community will prepare a more direct remedy, a simple infusion brewed earlier in the day from dried roots or flowers, to be drunk warm in the evening. Its taste may be strong, but its effects, if chosen well, are gentle, a softening of inner edges, a reduction of the kind of tight, circling thoughts that otherwise might delay sleep. The rhythm of telling and listening. In many longhouses, there is another ritual that shapes the night, the sharing of stories and of earlier dreams. Before the first sleep, when the hearth is brightest and everyone is gathered, tales of the gods and heroes are told. These are not only entertainments. They familiarize young and old alike with a language of images, ravens that stand for thought and memory, wolves that represent danger or destiny, ships that bear the weight of journeys, physical and spiritual. Hearing these stories again and again over the years, people internalize countless small associations. The next time a raven appears in someone's dream, it does not stand alone. It arrives in the company of Odin, of battlefields, of wisdom hard-earned or painfully given. A dream of a great tree might call to mind the world tree that stands at the center of all things, connecting different realms of existence. A dream of tangled thread or knotted rope may evoke the Norns, the weavers of fate. This shared symbolic vocabulary gives the community a common ground for interpreting dreams later. When in the soft middle of the night, or around the morning's first meal, someone speaks of what they saw in sleep, listeners can lean on this framework to help them understand. The act of telling itself is gently ritualized. The dreamer does not rush through their account. They speak slowly, remembering as best they can details of color, of feeling, of small movements. Listeners often let them finish fully before offering any comments. There is a respect here for allowing the dream to be told whole, without interruption, before others begin to weave their thoughts around it. This practice not only gives individual dreams weight and shape, it also trains minds to pay attention, to notice, to hold images and emotions together long enough to examine them. In a world without writing as a daily tool for most people, the ability to carry complex internal pictures and to share them clearly through speech is a valued skill. Dreams as mirrors and as messengers. Not every dream is prophetic. Many nights, people dream of everyday tasks, of fishing, of cooking, of walking through fields. Sometimes the scenes are simple repeats of waking life. Other times, they are slightly warped, with impossible combinations of place or person. These dreams may not carry messages from gods or fate, but they still serve. They act as mirrors held up to the dreamer's inner state. A woman who has been worrying about her children's safety may dream repeatedly of trying to gather scattered items into a single basket, only to have some always roll away. A man who feels torn between loyalty to family and desire to travel may dream of standing on a shore with two ships calling his name from different directions. A youth eager to prove himself might dream of battles that begin grandly but dissolve into confusion. When such dreams recur, people notice. They may not think of them as omens in the sense of foretelling external events. Instead, they see them as reflections of tensions, fears, or desires that have not yet been fully acknowledged. Talking about these dreams can bring those undercurrents into the open, where they can be considered in the slower, more deliberate language of waking thought. Other dreams, rarer, do feel like messengers from beyond the self. They may come with unusual vividness, standing out from the softer flow of other nights. Colors are brighter, sounds clearer, emotions stronger. The dreamer wakes with a sense of having truly been somewhere else, of having encountered something larger than their own memories and concerns. In such dreams, a specific figure might appear, an ancestor not seen for many years, a god in one of the forms they are said to favor, an animal behaving with an uncanny intelligence. The content of the dream might speak directly to a known question: whether to risk a sea voyage now or wait, whether to trust a particular ally, whether to settle in a new place or remain in the old. When someone experiences a dream of this kind, they do not keep it to themselves. At the next fitting moment, a quiet stretch in the night's middle, or the soft time just after dawn, but before tasks truly begin, they share it with at least one trusted listener, an elder, a spouse, a respected seer. Together, they turn the images over and over like stones in the hand, feeling their weight, their texture, their possible meanings. No one claims an absolute interpretation, but often, through this shared reflection, a path forward emerges that feels more grounded, more in tune with whatever forces move behind the surface of events. The gentle art of not forcing meaning. An important part of this dream life is an attitude of patience. Not every dream demands immediate decoding. Some are set aside, held lightly in memory, until events in waking life cast them in new light. A man might dream, for example, of a great tree struck by lightning but not falling. At the time, neither he nor his listeners can make much sense of it. Years later, when he survives a serious illness or battle, that old image may return to him with a new resonance. What once seemed inexplicable now feels like a quiet reassurance that was given long before it was needed. Because of this, people here do not strain too hard to force meaning from every night's imagery. They allow for mysteries, for gaps. They understand that some things are clearer in hindsight, and that the mind's way of connecting inner and outer events does not always move in straight, tidy lines. This relaxed approach prevents dreams from becoming a source of constant anxiety. If every strange picture seen in sleep had to be analyzed and acted on at once, the night would lose its restorative power. Instead, by letting some images drift away and keeping others in a loose net of memory, they strike a balance between attentiveness and surrender. Night as a shared sacred space. Taken together, the offerings by the hearth, the herbs, the storytelling, the careful telling and listening to dreams. These practices turn the longhouse at night into a kind of shared sacred space. There's no need for tall columns or carved altars here. The low, smoke-darkened rafters are enough. The simple packed earth floor, the straw and skins, the glow of coals, all of these form a temple of their own kind, one dedicated to the ordinary holiness of continued life. People do not kneel here in long, formal prayers every night. They do not chant or sing ritual songs each time they lie down, but in the way they treat sleep as a time not only of bodily rest, but of possible communication and subtle insight. They invest these hours with a quiet reverence. To enter sleep in such a place is to step into a stream that has carried countless others before. Grandparents, great-grandparents, nameless ancestors whose stories have faded but whose blood still flows in living veins. They all lay down in similar houses, under similar roofs, watching similar fires die to embers. They too dreamed such dreams, worried such worries, sought such guidance. For someone drifting now towards sleep in this environment, that continuity is a source of comfort. Whatever comes in the night, pleasant visions, strange images, even occasional nightmares, they know that others have walked such paths and returned. The night, in this understanding, is not a void. It is a realm rich with presence, of memories, of gods, of the living and the dead, all moving in patterns that the waking mind can glimpse but never fully name. And the people of the longhouse lying side by side on straw and wool, breathing in unison under the smoke-soft rafters, slide gently into that realm with the same acceptance with which they rise each morning to meet the solid, demanding light of day. Building your own inner longhouse, you do not live in a Norse village. Outside your window, there may be a city street, an apartment courtyard, a small suburban road, or a quiet country lane. Light might leak in from distant windows, from passing cars, from signs and screens. The roof above you is not made of turf and timber, but of other materials, other technologies. And yet, even here, even now, there is a part of you that longs for what that longhouse offered, a sense of being held in the dark, a rhythm of night that does not rush, a feeling that waking and sleeping both belong to a larger pattern and are not simply problems to solve. You cannot move your bed into a Viking longhouse, but you can, in a very real way, build one inside yourself, not of wood and earth, but of images and small choices, not with hammers and axes, but with breath and attention. Tonight, as you lie where you are, you can begin. Dimming the world. Before the people of the longhouse sleep, they let the day slowly unwind. Firelight replaces sunlight. Tasks grow smaller and calmer. Voices drop. The boundary between work and rest is respected. In your own way, you can imitate this. You do not need to construct an elaborate ritual. Start with a simple decision to let the outside world become a little quieter, a little dimmer, before you close your eyes. If there are bright screens near you, let them go to sleep first. Give your eyes the gift of softer light, perhaps a lamp with a warm tone, perhaps just the spill of light from another room instead of a direct glare. If you can, allow yourself at least a short stretch of time, 15 minutes, half an hour, more if you like, where nothing demands your immediate response. You might sit or lie quietly. You might listen to a gentle story or simply to the sounds of your own space. You might make a small, simple gesture, a cup of warm tea held in both hands, a few lines written in a notebook, a short thought silently offered in thanks for something about this day, however small. These acts do for you what the dimming of the Longhouse did for its people. They signal to your body and mind that you are passing from the sharp world of daytime into the softer world of night. Even if just for a short time, you can allow yourself this transition. Gathering your hearth. In the Norse house, sleep centers around the hearth, that low, glowing fire whose warmth and light give shape to the dark. Without it, the Longhouse is only walls and roof. With it, the space becomes a place of safety. You can imagine now that somewhere within you there is a similar hearth, not a literal flame, but a quiet center of warmth that you can tend with your attention. To find it, you might begin by noticing your breath. You do not need to change it. Simply notice air coming in, air going out, the gentle swell of your chest or belly as lungs fill, the easing as they empty. Perhaps your breath is shallow and quick, perhaps already slow and deep. Whatever it is your life's own small fire, burning quietly all the time. As you pay attention to it, you may find it beginning, gradually, to even out. A little less ragged, a little less hurried, like a fire that has been fed just enough wood to burn steadily, not too much. You can imagine that each breath in is like drawing that thin, dry stick Runa once placed on the embers, adding just a little fuel, gently. Each breath out is like watching the coals glow a bit brighter, feeling the warmth rise. If you like images, you can picture a small pool of soft light somewhere in your body, a spot in your chest, or just below your ribs, or in the center of your throat. This is your hearth. It does not flicker wildly. It is not in danger of going out. It glows steadily with the sum of all the warmth and life in you. You do not need to see it clearly. It is enough to trust that it is there and to rest a bit of your attention on it. Arranging your inner sleeping place. The people of the Longhouse did not lie wherever they happened to fall. Over time, they developed an arrangement that suited their needs, raised platforms to keep them off the cold ground, layers of straw and wool to insulate, positions chosen according to warmth and responsibility. In your own inner Longhouse, you can do something similar. You cannot always control the exact details of your physical environment, but inwardly you can create a sense of arrangement that supports rest. Scan your body gently from head to toe, not to judge, but to notice. How does your head feel on its pillow? Is there a place in your neck that is tight, a muscle holding more effort than it needs to at this moment? If so, you are not required to force it to relax. Instead, you can imagine laying a layer of soft straw under it, a bit of extra support, an acknowledgement. I see that you have worked hard. You are allowed to rest now. Move your attention down to your shoulders. Are they drawn slightly upward, as if braced against some unseen chill or blow? If so, you might visualize wrapping them in a warm woolen cloak. In your mind, feel the weight of that cloak as it settles, encouraging your shoulders to sink a little deeper into whatever supports them. The cloak does not judge the tension. It simply offers warmth until that tension no longer feels needed. Continue down your arms to your hands. Perhaps your fingers still carry the memory of typing, of writing, of holding tools, of scrolling, of lifting. Imagine placing those hands gently on a neutral surface, your own belly, the bed, the side of your body. See if you can let them be still, as if they are tools set carefully on a shelf for the night. In your chest and back, notice where breath moves most. If there are tight spots, you do not need to pry them open. Instead, picture yourself laying another layer of sheepskin there, like the people of the Longhouse did on their benches. Soft, thick, supportive. Your ribs lie back onto that imagined softness, held and cushioned. Your hips, your thighs, your knees, your feet, all of them can be gently checked in this way. Every place you find effort can be offered some inner equivalent of straw, wool, or fur. A mental sense of something soft, warm, and supportive, placed underneath or around. In this way, you are making your own bed inside yourself, regardless of what lies under your actual body. You are telling each part, the night here is like the Longhouse. Night long enough, warm enough, allowed. Accepting the middle waking. If you've ever woken in the middle of the night and felt anxiety bloom, about the time, about tomorrow's obligations, about the fact that you are awake at all, you know how easily this moment can become a tangle. The Norse Longhouse offers another pattern. For them, waking in the middle of the night was not automatically a problem. It was part of the pattern. People rose, tended the fire, checked animals, spoke softly, considered dreams, and then lay down again. You can borrow this understanding. If you find yourself awake at some dark hour, with thoughts already beginning to gather like crows, you might quietly remind yourself, this is my middle waking. It is an old human habit. There is nothing wrong with me for being awake now. Instead of wrestling immediately to return to sleep, you might allow a brief, gentle interval of wakefulness, free from pressure. You are not required to get up and be productive. You are also not required to lie rigidly still in panic. You can simply be. Maybe you focus again on your breath hearth. Maybe you let your mind take a slow inner walk through the Longhouse, from the door, past the cloaks and boots, along the sleeping platforms, to the fire, to the animals, and back. Perhaps you remember the winter shore, the distant ships at rest. If worries appear, as they often will, you do not have to chase each one. You might imagine them as bits of ash rising from the coals, visible for a moment in the firelight, then drifting upward and away into the darkness above, where they dissolve. You can tell yourself quietly, as a Norse grandfather might tell a child, night is long enough for both wake and sleep. I will return to rest when my body is ready. For now, I am simply here, often without your needing to force it. This acceptance softens the edge of your wakefulness. The body, reassured that it is not in danger, more easily relaxes again into the second sleep. And even if it takes time, even if the night is ragged, treating this middle space with kindness rather than judgment will leave you less bruised by morning. Creating a small ritual of protection. In the Viking house, Amulets and simple marks served as guards against fear. A hammer of Thor carved into wood, a small rune chalked on a beam, a token laid near the bed. These were physical reminders that people were not alone in their struggles. In your own environment, you can create something similar. It does not need to be elaborate or even visible to others. It might be a small object, a stone, a ring, a scrap of cloth from someone you love, placed where you can touch it by your bed. It might be a phrase you whisper to yourself, the same few words each night, forming a thread of continuity. For instance, as you lie down, you might quietly say, "Let this night be a shelter," or "May I rest in safety," or any line that feels honest and gentle to you. Over time, the repetition of this simple action or phrase can become like a hand on your shoulder from an older, steadier part of yourself. It signals to the more frightened portions of your mind that someone is on watch, that vigilance, if required, will be shared. In addition, if you like the feel of symbolic images, you might imagine drawing in your mind's eye a small protective sign above your bed, not because of superstition, but because the act of picturing such a boundary can give your nervous system a sense of enclosure. The longhouse had its walls and door bar. You can have, inwardly, a line that says, "This space is for rest." Inviting gentle dreams. You cannot fully control what you dream, but you can set a tone as you drift towards sleep. In the Viking world, that tone was set by stories told around the hearth, by the last conversations of the evening, by the images of gods and heroes and ancestors that lived in people's minds. Those images, repeated often, seeped into dreams. In your own case, you might consider, what is the last thing you feed your mind before trying to sleep? If it is always the glare of disturbing news, the rush of social feeds, the sharp edges of unresolved arguments, it is no wonder that your inner night tends toward turbulence. Instead, you might choose, even just for a few nights, to end your day with gentler images. Perhaps you read a page or two of something calming, a quiet story, a description of nature, a simple poem. Perhaps you listen to a voice that speaks slowly and kindly, telling you of distant forests, of calm seas, of old houses warmed by fire. You might, if it suits you, deliberately call to mind a place real or imagined that feels safe to you.